Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. It's time for a little Star Trek the Original Series, don't you think? Specifically, Season 2, Episode 21, Patterns of Force. Can't believe we're already at 21, but it's time to watch 21. Before we get into it though, friends, if you could do me a huge favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. It greatly helps out a small channel, and it allows me to alert you next time we go live with the original series, or any of our sci-fi fare. And of course, if there's anything that we do that you would like early or in its full-length format, the link to our Patreon is in the description, my friends. But all that is then. This is now. And now it's time for us to journey once again on the NCC 1701 as we watch Season 2, Episode 21, Patterns of Force. Prepare to engage maximum warp reaction. And away we go! Get that beauty!
Zora, try to raise John Gill on Starfleet Communications.
Aye, aye, sir.
John
I don't know, Bones. We're here to find out what's happened because I don't know.
Bones, I have no clue.
He was my instructor at the academy.
What impressed me most was his treatment of Earth history as causes and motivation.
Spacecraft approaching from inner planet.
Ooh.
Reaction-powered, small rocket. It is on an intercept course. It is an unmanned probe which seems to be carrying a warhead.
Shields.
Stand by phasers.
How about shields?
Fire!
Wow.
There's generations ahead of where these people should be. How did they manage that?
Maybe they had help.
Friends, Jim's going to tell us about the final frontier. I love setups like this. I'm going to tell you what. Okay, let me ask this question, everybody. Now, obviously, I'm only through when I'm done this one, through episode 21 of season 2. What of the episodes that I've seen, and so I can, understand, was there an entrance or like a cold open to an episode where you were incredibly hooked the first time you saw it? Like where you watched it and were like, oh my God, what's going to happen in this one? I mean, I feel that a lot because I think that one of the greatest attributes of the original series is the amount of tension and stakes that they can give us in a 2, 3, 5 minute cold open. It's pretty impressive how they can do it consistently to be like, oh, okay, we're right back into the shit right now. Really, really cool. All right, let's see who we have as far as writer and director. John Meredith Lucas. My favorite, Vincent McKevity.
We were attacked by a thermonuclear missile from a planet which should have no such weapon.
I am so psyched. Oh my God, McKevity.
Spark, you and I will beam down. Bones, one precaution. Prepare a subcutaneous transponder in the event we can't use our communicators.
That's one of the greatest ideas in the history of ever.
If we fail to make contact at the appointed time, take our coordinates from the transponder and beam us aboard no matter what our condition may be.
Now, I love that. We've talked about that before. Oh, Vincent McKevity, friends. Oh my God, I can't believe it. Also, one of the things that fascinates me, I love the idea of a solar system where there are 2 inhabited planets that are growing independently of one another. That's cool shit. That is really cool. Jim and jeans. Not something I knew I needed.
They're right behind me. Hide! Hide!
Hide?
Xeon pig. On your feet, pig.
What? What?
You swine have defiled us for the last time, but that's now ended. Move!
What is... I didn't think that... How did they get on each other's planets?
Mid-20th century Earth, the nation state called Nazi Germany.
Attention.
What in the hell is going on?
Starting at dawn, our heroic troops began flushing out the Xeon monsters who've been poisoning our planet.
How could this have happened?
Oh my God.
Like Nazi Germany using the forms, the symbols, the uniforms of 20th century Earth are so fantastically slim.
Virtually impossible, Captain.
So they picked up...
Deputy Fuhrer Melikon presented the Iron Cross, second class to Darius, hero of the fallen.
This is crazy.
Death to Xeon. Long live the fatherland. Long live the Fuhrer.
Oh my God, it's the historian. Well, hey, how's it going?
You're right. He's not one of us.
What do you mean?
Look at him.
You really would have wanted to go the other way. I'm invested in this one. This is cool.
That helmet covers a multitude of sins.
Take charge of it.
With pleasure. Today we have a surprise planned for you, Zeon.
You have a surprise too. Welcome to unconsciousness and a underwear filled with shit as your bowels release. My headcanon is that's what the pinch does. So this guy got on this planet and decided.
The lieutenant's a little dazed. He captured several Zeons single-handed. One of the pigs struck him before he dropped. I promise you that pig will never get up again.
Bill Shatner.
Your helmet, remove it.
We have urgent business with the Fuhrer.
Lieutenant?
Okay. I like the look Nimoy gives is like, okay, you got what you wanted. What do you think?
Enough.
I was gonna say you're gonna need a lot longer with Spock. And Kirk. Kirk won't fall before Spock does.
Do you wish to speak now?
No.
You'll be glad to talk to me before I'm through with you.
Major?
Kamenenik.
This is crazy.
Your Excellency, I am honored. I've been interrogating these two spies captured in the very...
I've had a full report.
Just a little over 20 years after World War II.
You are not from Zeon.
Obviously.
I love that. Obviously.
What is your business with the Fuhrer?
I'll discuss that only with him.
You are speaking to the chairman of the party.
That's enough, Major.
And so Gil decided we are going to go full Nazi. That's a decision.
The trouble with you, SS, is that you don't realize that punishment becomes ineffective after a certain point.
This guy's good. They both are, actually.
Hold them for an hour.
Excellency, the order is...
That is my order, Major. I suggest you do not disobey it.
Some really good acting here.
Gil was the kindest, gentlest man I ever knew. For him to be a Nazi.
What the hell happened, I wonder? That would promote this type of stuff.
Because without us, the hate would be nothing to hold them together. Has built us into a threat, a disease to be wiped out.
Wow.
Were they like this when you first came here?
Warlike, yes, but not vicious. That started when the Nazi movement began. It was only a few years ago.
That would coincide with the time of John Gill's arrival.
This is...
We can get to the SS weapons laboratory, get our weapons back. We might be able to stop the slaughter of the Zeons.
Why should you be interested in saving Zeons?
Because this is already interference.
Is this locked door and the guard beyond it? To the logical mind, the outlook is somewhat gloomy.
Spock, this is an old-timey door and lock. I have no doubt that you can get through it.
The rubidium crystals in the transponders.
When Jim MacGyver stuff, it's a good episode. Oh my God, they're going to use that to cut it out? Well, I don't like taking these out because now we're going to lose transporter lock.
It's necessary to hold the crystals rigidly at a specific distance, which I believe should be 27.2 millimeters.
Pause for the point two. Great job, Nimoy.
Approximately there. That is, of course, crude estimation.
Okay.
Of course.
Now, rubidium crystals.
They work so well together.
History of physics, the ancient lasers were able to achieve the necessary excitation.
I love that they did this.
Oh, Mr. Spock, the guard did a very professional job on my back. I'd appreciate it if you'd hurry.
The guard did a very professional job on my back. Great episode so far, friends.
Very crude.
Outside of a barn. Just hurry, please.
Captain, why should I aim at such a structure?
Oh, some of my favorite Bill Shatner right there. Are they going to focus the... Look at that shit. Look at these shots. Vincent, thank you for coming back, buddy.
Sorry, I'll talk.
Speaking about pain and the release of your bowels, welcome to unconsciousness.
Captain, I remind you, we did not intend to fight.
Take me with you or you'll never find the laboratory.
There you go.
Take him with us, Mr. Spark. You've got a point. He's
Listen,
our guide.
Prime Directive's out the window now. Obviously, Gil's already interfered by providing the structure for this current world.
Which is the laboratory door?
At the end of the hall.
We couldn't even get Spock a shirt. Like, he can't have the kid's jacket.
Don't worry, they're on their way to the laboratory for experimental work. They'll pay. Move!
We gave you a little bit of extra information. The guy's like, listen, I'm getting a beer. I'm off. It's 5 o'clock. I love McKevity lets these two cook.
Business?
Where do you come from?
No, there's no way they left the phaser somewhere. Good job, kid, closing that door.
Museums for peaceful people are
Look at these long shots that McKevity uses. They use them a lot in this show, but he uses them.
It is illogical to assume that we can hold out against the entire military force of this planet.
All right, Mr. Spark, you made your point. Get into the uniform and hide those ears again.
Don't look so surprised, Spock.
Who's with you? It's all right. They helped me escape from the prison.
Oh, it's like a resistance. Cool.
Violette is dead. Shot down in the streets.
What's the relation? Just friend or another brother?
She would have been my wife.
Oh, okay.
She lived for 5 hours while they walked past her.
Oh my God.
I do not know if the circuits are correct, Captain. There is no way to test it, except in actual use.
The Enterprise won't be within range for another hour.
Okay.
So you're the three who escaped from the Chancellery Detention Center.
Yeah.
Do you know what we do to responsible Zeons?
She's gonna kill him. Oh my God.
Now we've finished the job.
Well, if that's the case, then attack everybody. We've got numbers, I think. It's pretty close. Close quarters.
Turn the guns against yourselves? No, don't shoot. Don't shoot, please.
No. Wait.
Really?
If this young lady is a Nazi, a hero of the fatherland, we saw her being decorated.
She's a double agent.
They imprisoned him, and Melicon sentenced him to death.
Melicon?
The deputy Fuhrer. He's taken over.
What happened to the Fuhrer?
John Gill, your Fuhrer. He's one of our people.
And what is your people?
I mean, at this point, we're from the stars.
I'm Captain James Kirk of the United Spaceship Enterprise. This is my first officer, Mr. Spock. John Gill, your Fuhrer, was sent here by the Federation as a cultural observer.
He didn't do that.
That the Fuhrer is an alien?
That is correct.
I think the real problem is this Deputy Fuhrer.
He was sent here to observe, not to interfere. Something went wrong, and that's why we're here.
Such an interesting mission. Cultural observer for the Federation.
No one but Melicon. He's under maximum security.
Maximum security.
He's not alive. Gil's dead.
No one knows for sure, but I'm afraid it'll be a formal declaration of war against Zeon. Their final solution.
You must.
Wow. They're going for it in this episode, and I love it.
You, Zeon. You expect to get into the Chancellery?
It's even more my fight than yours.
Wow, this is crazy, and I am super invested in this episode.
Light! You, what is your business here? Get me some lights on her.
Good idea. Really good idea.
Here's Special Documentary Corps. Smile, Corporal.
Excuse me.
McKevity took the handheld in on that one, too, to give us a little bit of organic bump. I liked it.
I'm beginning to understand why you Earthmen enjoy gambling. No matter how carefully one computes the odds of success, there is still a certain exhilaration.
Thrill.
I make a human of you yet.
I hope not.
Oh my God, great exchange. I hope not. Be careful, this guy knows you.
Thank you. Where does the Fuhrer enter?
That's awesome. You can keep those things in your faces, so. Oh, Watch out, must be the deputy Fuhrer.
Where's the entrance to the broadcast booth?
There, at the end of the corridor.
The one with the two guys with MP40s out front.
We're here to get John Gill and alive, not for your personal satisfaction. Is that clear? Let's try down there.
This is a very well done episode.
It was John Gill, but he never moved, never once looked up.
Something's up.
Maybe simpler than that. He may be drugged. We need McCoy. Is there a place, a room we can be alone for a few minutes? I'm going to send for help.
We need McCoy.
In fact, it may not work at all.
Think positively, Spock.
That's one of my favorite Spock and Kirk episodes.
Captain, we're not reading you well. You're 9 points into the low frequency band.
We're having difficulty.
We're having difficulty.
I want McCoy outfitted as a Gestapo doctor, Nazi Germany, old Earth date 1944. Make him a colonel.
That's awesome. I like this kid too. They've got a good crop of actors for this one.
They picked up your broadcast and pinpointed it within this building. They're starting to search.
Wow. Just like a resistance message, like a radio message from the resistance.
What in blazes is this?
What is going on? All this work and that guy immediately identifies Kirk and Spock.
There's a spy in this building with a secret transmitter. We're conducting a search. Hail the Fuhrer.
Hail, Fuhrer.
Hell, here.
They're waiting right outside. We know who you are.
Do not understand how he failed to recognize us.
Nor do I.
Unless he's a double agent too.
This planet can become a paradise if we are willing to pay the price.
Wow, I can't believe they did this episode, and I think it's great. But I mean, very deep themes. Final solution? Jeez, oh Pete's.
Turn around, smile, and now.
You may want to get rid of those bodies that are lying in the hall right outside of this main room.
Fuhrer has given us our orders, and we pledge him our lives in this sacred task.
I wonder how this episode was received.
Is there anything you can do?
I can give him a general stimulant, but it would be risky.
Yeah, we need information. I'm surprised they sent somebody as old as him, Gil, out on the field.
Increase the dosage.
Working in the dark, I could kill him.
Is he drugged or did he have like a stroke?
Our troops began their historic mission. In the cities, the eliminations have started.
Oh my God.
Zeon blight will forever be removed from Akos.
It's begun.
It's a crystal knocker. What is that? Night of Shattered Glass?
Spock, try to get through to him with a mind probe. If you can't, Bones, you'll have to use a stronger stimulant no matter what it does.
Everybody, somebody watch that door, please. I know the kid's on it, but kid's also holding a light, not a gun. McKevity loves the mind meld. Dagger of the mind, one of my favorite shots.
I've created a condition in which Gil cannot initiate speech or any other action, but he can reply to questions.
Well done, Spock.
Interesting.
Planet fragmented, divided. Took lesson from Earth history.
But why Nazi Germany?
What? Yeah.
Most efficient state Earth ever knew.
Wow.
At first, it worked. Then Melicon began to take over.
Jimmy's hurting. Everybody needs to get out of here.
He's still alive, but the drug they use is too strong. If I give him another shot,
Bones, give him another shot.
I don't dare. Guard.
We've run out of time.
Yep.
Germany, this spy must be taken to Melicon.
This guy's a double agent. He's got to be. Jim, you really should have left. Oh, you're going to give him another shot? You're going to kill him, dude. You are going to kill this guy, and then that's it.
Got to speak. This is our last chance.
Jim, he's hurting, man. Really bad. You're going to kill him with these stimulants.
Authority on the genetics of racial purity. How would you classify this one?
This is unreal that they did this on TV.
You've got to talk. You've got to tell him what happened. You've got to come out of it.
Or he's just going to die, Jim.
Turn off that camera.
Hear me.
Come on, Gil.
We were betrayed by a self-seeking adventurer.
Come on, Gil.
This attack must stop. All units are to return to base. Melicon is a traitor to his own people and all that we stand for.
How many sympathizers does he have, though? Nice, kid.
Wait, soldier. There's been enough killing. Now we'll start to live the way the Fuhrer meant us to live.
Oh, Gil.
You must stop the slaughter. You did that, Professor. You told them in time.
Wow.
Let the killing end.
Wow. This episode.
You've given us all a new chance.
Thank you. But go now. We must do the rest.
I love that guy. Great delivery.
It is time to stop the bloodshed, to bury our dead.
To bury our dead. Really good delivery by that guy. That dude is one of the better people I've seen, and I've seen some great ones on this show.
With the union of two cultures, this system would make a fine addition to the Federation.
Correct Enterprise.
Enterprise here, Captain.
Beam us aboard.
Wow.
The problem with the Nazis wasn't simply that their leaders were evil, psychotic men. They were. But the main problem, I think, was the leader principle.
What he's saying, Spock, is that a man who holds that much power, even with the best intentions, just can't resist the urge to play God.
Thank you, Doctor. I was able to gather the meaning.
Darn clever, these Earthmen, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Earthmen like Ramses, Alexander, Caesar, Napoleon, Hitler, Lee Kuan.
If he had said Khan, I would have shit. Look at that beauty. All right, everybody, we just got done watching Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 21, Patterns of Force. And the only thing left to do is to talk about it. All right, everybody, we just got done watching Star Trek, the original series, the 21st episode of Season 2, Patterns of Force. Wow. Okay, so I have a bunch of questions that really don't have to do with the episode. My first and foremost question, and this is something I am 1,000% looking up for Q&A, is how was this received? Now, again, I don't mean because it spoke of Nazi things and, you know, there's kind of a taboo, kind of an obvious taboo against any mention of Nazis, especially like the swastika and stuff. I know that, like, you know, even if Nazis are represented on the screen nowadays, seldom do you see the swastika also represented. You know, usually it's the cross now or something of that, the Iron Cross or something of that nature. My big question is this. It's received because we are like 20 odd out from World War II, the resolution, you know, VE Day and whatnot. So with that understanding and the idea that the soldiers that fought in World War II against the Nazis would likely be probably the parents or, you know, someone in their household could be watching Star Trek, you know what I mean? And they turn this on. Now, again, we've had plenty of like war movies and, you know, I mean, Green Berets is being filmed by George Takei during this season and whatnot. But, you know, the Nazis are prevalent in those war movies, you know. I'm not sure about the Green Berets. I don't know what time period that takes place in. But, I mean, you know, war movies were always a staple of Hollywood, especially around World War II and time after. I mean, even up to this day, you know, if you want to have an enemy that everybody can get behind hating, you usually put a Nazi in there, you know, or a Nazi group, or, you know, you said it during World War II. Now, with all that being said, though, I'm curious because, I mean, it was fearless. In my opinion, this was a fearless episode. And I believe, didn't we say the writer was John Meredith Lucas, also the producer of this one? Okay, so writes a story that is our script that is absolutely, you know, like I said, there isn't any type of censoring here. We have the Sig Heil, you know what I mean? Swastikas. And again, these are things that haven't really reached the taboo levels, I guess, that they have now. But at the same time, I mean, you're talking about the final solution. You have a very, you know, with the Zeons, it's obviously, you know, a placeholder for the Jewish people, for Hebrews. And with all of that, and I mean, I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that both Nimoy and Shatner are both Jewish. I don't know about the rest of the cast. But I remember that from a Howard Stern interview like years ago. But so there's a lot of just okay, the episode I thought was, I mean, really well done, really tense, shot great. My man Vincent McKevity was in there doing his thing, really, really well done, really great acting. Tremendous back and forth between Kirk and Spock in this one. Tremendous. I thought it was so good. So, really witty, just intimate too, like really intimate. You're down there, we're on the mission with them. Oh, it was so good. Now, not to mention, I thought that this potentially, as a collected group, because it was a large ensemble when we had the original Nazi that like captured them and was torturing them. And then we had like the good looking guy that came in and stopped him, the guy that was the party chairman or whoever he was, and the hero of the Reich, she was great. Everybody was incredibly strong, I thought, in this episode with their acting. So, I mean, that in and of itself promoted the episode, made it strong. There wasn't a weak link to be found in the episode. And like I said, it was fearless, which I loved. An episode like this that really does go into this topic as hard in the paint as it does, I appreciate it. And I will give it, even if it was a weaker episode, I would have given it, it's almost like a gymnastics routine, the difficulty of the stunt awards higher points, the attempt. This is a difficult one to do, and I would have awarded higher points even if it had been of poorer quality, but it wasn't. It was really well done, really well storyboarded. There was no get out of jail free card with like the tech of the Enterprise. We had McCoy come down, but it was still just their wits to kind of get through all of this. So I enjoyed the episode itself. I thought was very well done. Top of the series I've seen so far. I mean, top half of the series I've seen so far. Definitely very strong. It's just so many great episodes in Star Trek. You can't start. I would. There's so often whenever I finish one of these, I want to be like, oh, that's a top 10 episode for me. There's only so many top 10 episodes, so I always just say top half. Because I can't sit here and rank each time. I'd be driving myself nuts. But I'm just a really, really incredibly solid, every element of production and acting really well done in this one. My biggest curiosity, though, is like the cultural impact of this episode. Because, again, there's a younger audience for Star Trek. From my understanding, there's a younger demographic, ones that would have grown up in the shadow of World War II, but wouldn't have participated in it. I mean, I'm sure there were older Star Trek fans, but the majority of the audience, shadow of World War II, didn't participate in it. Children of soldiers, that type of stuff. So with all that being said, though, I just want to know what the pulse of the country was when they saw this. The pulse of, the UK when they saw it. The pulse of in Canada when it was, I mean, of like the Allied nations basically that saw this and were like, oh my God, what? I just don't understand, and again, there might have been nothing. It might have been like, oh yeah, there were Nazis in that Star Trek episode, and it was just again, growing up in the shadow of that, seeing it reflected on TV, when you lived through it, or you had parents that lived through it and family members that lived through it, seeing it on TV probably didn't mean anything, maybe. I just don't know. And that is the curiosity that is just coursing through me with this. When we're watching and they are openly talking about the final solution, they're openly talking about, just its thinly veiled replacement for the Zionists and the Jewish people. I mean, they're killing people in the streets. That description of the kids, the woman that was going to be his fiance, or was his fiance, that were going to be married, where she took her 5 hours to die and they walked by spitting on her. I mean, those are stories that are drawn directly from history. And I mean, I just found it I mean, I don't know. And see, I view it right now in 2024 as fearless, like, oh my God, to put that on, no fear. You're attacking the strongest of the subjects. You're doing so with conviction. You're doing so respectfully. You're going in and you're just absolutely, the actors are all on board. Everybody's going for this. That's fearless to me. Back in the day, though, I wonder if they didn't just say, interesting episode, Star Trek with Nazis. And that was that. You know what I mean? Like, because there was just a different mindset. I'm so curious. I'm going to definitely look that up and we'll talk about it in Q&A for sure, my friends. Which reminds me, even though we have Q&A now, Q has already told us, or he told me that he was off to the future, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. But luckily, especially with this sort of a military bent to this episode, it's a good thing we have the general on standby. So with all of the pomp and all of the circumstance we can muster after a decidedly fearless yet sinister episode, we will confidently call in somebody that could provide us with the backstage knowledge and hopefully a little insight into how it was received. General? Greetings and salutations, my friends. 'Tis I, the leader of men, the lover of women, and best friend to Jim Kirk, General Trelane, retired. Friends, this is where, having watched and reacted to an original series episode, I'd like to dig a little bit deeper and find out what went on behind the cameras. Things that if I had looked up before having watched the episode would have ruined it for me. But to keep myself from going off into the weeds and talking for 3 hours, I've given myself 5 categories to explore. The first of which, writer and director. Who were they? The second, guest stars. Did we have any? The third, of the core cast or the Big 8, who was present? The fourth, and the juiciest of the categories, the production notes. What went on behind the cameras? And last but certainly not least, my friends, category 5, a memorable quote from the episode. Let's get started. All right, everybody, and for our first category, writer and director, who were they? Well, our writer for this episode was John Meredith Lucas. We've seen Lucas's work before. He also wrote The Changeling, but I do believe that, I'm not going out on a limb here by saying that I think, anyway, personally, Patterns of Force is a superior offering. Very, very well done. One of my favorite TOS episodes, to be sure. Now, who was the director of this episode? None other than my guy, Vincent McKevity. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I just love his directorial style. Huge fan of Pevney and huge fan of Daniels. We've had a lot of really, really great directors. It just so happens that I have a preference for Vincent. And this is his 4th episode that he has directed, but his first of season 2 and his first since Balance of Terror. Ooh. Let's move on. All right, everybody, and for our second category, guest stars, did we have any? We certainly did. We had a ton, but I limited it to 4 because really some excellent acting throughout this episode. I don't think I saw one weak person in the entire guest starring cast we had in this. Everybody from the interrogator, who I didn't include, but the interrogator that initially was whipping Spock and Kirk. Really, really just excellent deliveries all around. Just a really, really good job of casting in this episode. But who were our guest stars, my friends? All right. We had Richard Evans as Isaac. We had Valora Noland as Darris. We had Patrick Horgan as Enig. And we had David Bryan as John Gill. More on those names down in production notes. Let's continue. All right, friends, and for our third category of the core cast or the Big 8, who was present in this episode? Well, always to recap, the Big 8 consists of Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Sulu, Scotty, Uhura, and for season 2, we added in Chapel and Chekhov. So, of the Big 8, who appeared? Everybody except for Sulu and except for Chapel. So we only had 6 of the Big 8, friends. It's always a joy when we have them all. Let's move on. All right, friends, and for our 4th category, the juiciest of the category, our production notes. What went on behind the cameras? Because as we've often said, the story behind the cameras of the original series can be every bit as compelling as the one they put in front of the cameras. Let's get started. All right, friends, and for our first production note, I thought I'd start with something a little bit light because this was a decidedly heavier episode. But if this episode, Patterns of Force, is the one and only time in the original series Spock appears shirtless. Also, to give you a little bit more and expand a little bit more on said shirtlessness, Bill Shatner was asked by Gene Roddenberry to shave his chest because Roddenberry thought that looked cleaner. Leonard Nimoy was approached and Gene Roddenberry asked him to shave his chest and Leonard Nimoy refused. Let's move on. All right, friends, and for our second production note, again, I wanted to know about this as I was reacting and watching the episode, thinking to myself, how was this received by the general public? Well, let's find out. This episode, Patterns of Force, was deemed so controversial that Germany did not air this episode. The only episode of the original series that Germany did not air was this one. They thought the subject matter was way too intense. And just when they thought they were going to do it again, like in the late 80s, early 90s, they thought, okay, well, you know what? They got the go ahead to put out Patterns of Force into their national broadcast, or, their affiliates there. The Berlin Wall came down. And during that time, there was a huge kind of intercountry rise of neo Nazism. And so once again, Patterns of Force was shelved. And I don't have an exact date, but it wasn't until the aughts, like '07, '08, that it finally appeared in Germany. Interesting stuff, my friends. Let's move on. All right, friends, and for our third production note, this one's interesting too, and it comes a bit on the heels of number two, where it was, Germany kind of banned the episode. This episode in many venues was heavily, heavily edited because they didn't want to show the violence that was in this episode, even beyond like the Nazi iconography and the swastika and things like that. For instance, in the UK, they completely edited out the whipping scene where we see both Kirk and Spock taking lashes by the SS officer, or the German officer that was, the Nazi officer that was, trying to interrogate them. So that was one instance of many. But I coming to think about it now, we did have a lot of violence in this episode that was not scientific, not sci-fi. We didn't have phasers and disappearing. We had people getting shot. And so again, a lot of this was edited down to kind of hit standards and practices the right way. A lot of countries and a lot of locales heavily, heavily redacted, my friends. Let's move on. All right, friends, and for our fourth production note, this was an interesting one because obviously, everything was supposed to be a parallel to the Holocaust that had happened before and during the events of World War II. So to make sure that there was, no chance of misrepresentation, they wanted to put in as many kind of parallel, slightly off Jewish references in there too, to make sure that, there was an honorific given there too, that this was an incredibly weighty issue. And because there were so many Jewish members of both the crew and the cast, this is what they decided to do. And so our handsome party leader, who was played by Patrick, let me go back up and look, Patrick Horgan, Enig is actually Gene spelled backwards, his name. And so, they brought in Gene Roddenberry for that one. But the truly kind of Jewish representations were when we had Abram for Abraham, we had Davad for David, and we had Isaac with Isaac, and, Darius, the woman that was like the party hero or whatnot, was a way the only way they could think of to spell Sarah backwards. So I thought that was a really interesting way to kind of make sure that even baked into the cake, there was this wasn't an episode that was just made to be made. This was an episode that had an absolute theme, had an absolute statement that it was making, and the creatives, the cast, everybody wanted to make sure that it was not lost or was not overlooked. And the names became a really, really powerful way to represent that and bring it home. Love it, my friends. Let's move on. All right, friends, and last but certainly not least, our fifth production note. And this one I thought, again, I would leave with a lighter note because of the heavy episode. So I decided to give us a locale. Normally if we're outside, whether we're looking for, the rocks of the Vasquez Natural Resource Park or one of those places, we had an exterior of the Ecosian Chancellery, where the Fuhrer's final speech came from. And all of the windows were boarded up to give it a threatening feel, to give it, very menacing, someplace you didn't want to be inside, almost like it was sealed off, like you were going into a mausoleum or a tomb or a prison. That's the way it came across. But the real reason for it being completely boarded off was because it was the Paramount Pictures studio buildings. And this was an active studio. There were people coming in and out, and just behind those kind of walled off and shuttered windows, people were hard at work during the business of Hollywood. And so I thought it was very interesting that they decided to kind of, I don't know, break the mold that they had before and take it an exterior, but just take it close. Keep it on studio lot. Really, really cool stuff. And an incredibly interesting use of, resources to kind of keep costs down. Great, great stuff, my friends. let's move on. And now, friends, for our fifth and final category, a memorable quote from this episode. So what I thought I would do, friends, is because Patterns of Force was a very heavy episode and there were numerous fantastic quotes throughout this that had more of a Star Trek bent, great Kirk lines, really cool Spock lines, the exchanges between the two, funny lines. I decided to go with something. It was John Gill's final words. And I thought that it represented both the episode of Patterns of Force and the events that inspired Patterns of Force. And so with this quote, we have John Gill's final words. Even historians fail to learn from history. They repeat the same mistakes. Let the killing end. And friends, thus ends another installment of Q&A. Until we meet again, behave yourselves.